Welcome to episode 36 of Q the Duck Boats podcast. How are you two boys feeling today in this beautiful, kind of muggy Sunday morning, at least in Rhode Island? How is it over in Connor? I honestly have no idea where you live. I tell people different things all the time, like Iowa, Illinois, Kentucky, the Midwest,
Iowa,
Connecticut.
Illinois border, right along the Mississippi River, technically on the Illinois side, but it is a brisk 60 degrees and damp and rainy this morning. Kind of dreary outside, but that nice leave the screen door open, leave the windows open weather. The perfect time for a Cue the Duck Boats hoodie. You know what I'm saying?
Go to the inside the rink store and pick one up for yourself. Won't be that one though. That one's Carhartt, and we had to buy those ourselves. But if you want that one, slide in our DMs, and I'll cut you a great deal. But we do have some nice Gildan heavy blend ones. They are nice. They're nice Gildan heavy blend Q the Duck Boats hoodies we have on the website. And buy those now. Kev, how's the weather over on Nantucket?
Um, it looks kind of nice out. I just woke up, so haven't really ventured outside into the unknown world.
Thank you for that great analysis. No, I'm going to hit you with back-to-back questions. Give us a number 36, Kevin.
I'm gonna have to go with Mr. Matt Zuccarello for the Minnesota Wild.
Oh, a little wild action early in the podcast. We haven't even hit that segment yet, Kevin. Relax. All right. Well, another kind of slow week-ish. Another slow week-ish in the NHL. We're still in the dog days of summer. We're almost done. Players are reporting back to their cities. Things are about to kick up. Definitely have a lot of different thoughts here. Anything you guys want to touch into before we get into the dirty water?
I guess one of the insignificant things that we could just cover real quick is the PTOs in the league.
Yeah, you want to do that?
There was a few of them. Yeah, so PTO signing, quick and easy. Most of these are pretty much nothing to, shake a stick at. Calvin DeHaan signs PTO in Carolina. Danny DeKaiser, ex-Red Wing, signs in Vancouver. Scott Harrington, a PTO in San Jose. And Zach Aston-Reese signs in Toronto.
Yeah,
that was probably the most, shocking out of them all.
I think that it shows how the money just isn't there right now. The money really just isn't there because guys like Calvin DeHaan and Zach Aston-Reese 2, 3, 4 years ago before COVID are getting a one-way contract. They're not signing a PTO, and that's just a reality. And I would like to think that if Zach Aston-Reese is making the roster in Toronto, his deal's already done. And they said that on 32 Thoughts. I listened to the last episode, and they were talking about how like he's a guy who really should be getting a contract. So this PTO might be a formality, kind of like, do you remember the Mike Hoffman one from a couple of years ago with St. Louis?
Yeah, you got to wait until the season starts and the LTIR works out and you have some cap space and go from there. And Kevin just casually chugging down some orange juice over here. Not a big deal.
Anything to say about that, Kev, or no?
It was Sunny D, actually. So
you are so classy, it hurts.
What a savage. So for people that, obviously we started recording after this happened, but Kevin hops on the stream with us today to get ready to record. And he starts opening the most crinkly freaking sandwich we've ever heard.
Yeah.
Shout out to Mom for making that sandwich for Kevin.
It was a good breakfast sandwich.
Joni, shout out Joni. We were a solid, just 15 minutes late to recording because we had to watch and listen to every bite, every single bite of Kevin's sandwich. It was fantastic. Exactly how I wanted to start my Sunday. But let's just get it rolling here. Let's get into that dirty water. Let's talk Boston Bruins. We have a little bit of news, not really, more just predictions, but let's get into it. So more or less, really, with the Bruins, it's just things that happen within our group chat creates our own news at this point because nothing's going on. I think the biggest thing we've talked about in the last couple of weeks is Trent Frederic. I've seen for a fact just via social media and through different accounts, Trent Frederic has been dialed in this summer and he's been working out and he looks ready to go. I've heard from, interviews listening to Jim Montgomery. He expects big things from Trent Frederic. I've heard whispers from around the NHL. People think this is Trent Frederic's breakout year. That's what I'm hearing. And I'm going with it and I'm rolling with it. And I've always been a Trent Frederic guy, so I'm not going to stop now. Do I ever expect Trent Frederic to be a 1C? No, I don't. But I do think he's going to be a formidable top 9 player who can play up and down your lineup, can play meaningful minutes and is a guy you want on your side in the playoffs. Let's hear your takes on it.
See, I'm not as sold as you. And don't get me wrong, when he first kind of, broke into the league and fought, I believe it was Matthew Perreault, who recently retired. I was on the train. I was on that Freddie Fight Club train, and I was super excited. One of my favorite Bruins players ever is honestly Sean Thornton. I love that dude. So to see Trent Frederick coming up and being able to do, similar things, that was really exciting as just like a pure hockey fan. But in the back of my mind, I don't see it. Like, I hear what you're saying about had a really great summer, really dialed in, etc. I don't buy any of that stuff. You hear it every year with
but I mean,
and it doesn't pan out.
That's tough though, because I've had many conversations with you even last year where you argued you thought Trent Frederick was poised for a breakout year. So what changed your mind? He hasn't done anything to change your mind. Is it just you changing your own mind?
I think the Bruins organization changed my mind. Like, I feel like they false started him and they brought him in to play a role where he was, the rough and tumble, drop the gloves, be, in people's faces, like a really aggressive player on the ice. And then he did a couple of stupid things on the ice, got some, really dumb penalties. And then they're like, whoa, like pump the brakes. You need to calm down. And he got a little heat in the media, of course, from some other teams. I believe that was around the Kirill Kaprizov hit, if I'm not mistaken.
And Ovechkin, probably.
And Ovechkin, where Ovechkin kind of speared him in the stones.
So Trent Frederick doesn't like Russians. Who sees a problem?
I don't know. But I don't know. That's kind of where I'm stuck with Trent Frederick. Like, I feel like he was playing his game in Boston, and then they said, hey, cut that shit out. And then you saw him last year after that, and he was a completely different person. You didn't see that spark.
Yeah, he didn't have he wasn't out there chirping, wasn't out there running around, but he did. He had 8 goals. He did okay. I really don't. I think it's too early for us to give this judgment on Trent Frederick. I think we need to give him another year with a new coach and see if it works. If it doesn't work under another coach, I'm with you on that. But I do think we generally if they let him play, they need to let him play. I think Trent Frederick, the player, could be a talented NHL player. It doesn't mean the Bruins will ever let that happen, because the Bruins notoriously have some trouble developing talent. We talked about that last week. The Bruins have not drafted and developed really any centers since 2011. They haven't really. I mean, so it's they have a fucking development issue. I agree, but I don't know, Kev.
Yeah, no, I'm with you, Jake. I'm a big Trent Frederick guy, and he had the scoring touch in college. It's taken him a little longer to get going here, but he needs to be able to play his game like you guys have been saying. It's just, if he doesn't feel comfortable doing that, like with Cassidy, he did one wrong thing, he's in the doghouse. He's punished for it. You need to let him just play his game, let him do his third line thing, let him hit, let him chirp, let him score, let him do that thing, let him be comfortable in all aspects of his game, and it will come. That's why I feel it's just you need to let him be him.
So do you think?
Exactly.
Yeah, I was thinking that
and
too.
Over time, he's gonna grow out of that. He may grow out. He may end up being like Tom Wilson and be a dick his whole career.
No, I even think Tom Wilson's grown out of it a bit. I actually like Tom Wilson. I mean, he's an asshole out there, but
scumbag.
He's not like his hits sometimes are bad, but he's not like a bad dude. Like guys around the league don't
sometimes
hate
bad.
Guys around the league don't hate. Yeah, but like guys around the league do not hate Tom Wilson. They don't. Like look at him when he's at the All-Star game or not the All-Star game. What was he at? Like in the bubble. It's the Pasta and him are hanging out all the time. There's like all kinds of stuff. Like those guys, he's not like a bad dude. Like he's not Evander Kane. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's not like, you know what I mean? He's not like an asshole, I don't think.
So for Trent Frederick, let me ask you this. Do you think that they will truly let him play, let him make the mistakes, not pull him or reduce him in the lineup? You think that a year where the Bruins are going for it by bringing back the veteran team and trying to give one last kick at the can, that they're going to just be okay with mediocrity in the lineup?
Yeah, no, they're going to allow not mediocrity, no, but they're going to allow young players to make mistakes. They've said this already. Montgomery's came out and said they're going to let young players make mistakes and find their way. Cam Neely said this team needs to do more of that. The writing's on the wall for the Bruins. As much as this is their last run, if they care about their future, they have to develop young guys on this last run with those veteran presence there. They do.
Yeah, I don't know. That's
who are you gonna put there? I mean, you don't see Trent Frederick in the lineup?
I see him in a lineup, but I don't see him being, an 82 game player. I could see him being in the 50s.
I think they want. I think he's gonna be on that team. It depends. They have to make some moves, right? Because they added Zaka in.
I think this is kind of
they added in Zaka and Krejci, and we only lost Hall. So the moves have to happen. That's for sure.
So why don't we get into the next topic here with some of the roster predictions to make this a little bit easier to break down and walk people through how Frederick could be pushed out of the lineup. So I believe Kevin had originally sent this in our group chat that they came out with a somewhat prediction via Jim Montgomery of what the top two lines in Boston would look like. The top line with Marchand not healthy to begin the year. I'm talking right out the year. Marchand being hurt.
Yeah.
You're having a top line of Pavel Zacha, Patrice Bergeron, and Jake DeBrusk.
Yep.
And then a second line of Hall, Krejci, and Pasternak.
Which will be that'll be their line all year.
And we'll stop there for now before we kind of get into the coin toss. For that top six to start the year, I'm going to say that the second line is going to be significantly better than the first line.
I mean, that's not exactly do you think you're Nostradamus for coming up with that? Do you want like a pat in the head?
I think a lot of people are down on Krejci. Have you I've been through the Twitterverse.
If you know anything about hockey, you know that the Hall Pasta line is going to be better than the line with DeBrusk and Zacha. I don't really that line's going to be better. I'm not down on Krejci. Krejci's ability to pass the puck to Hall and Pasta, still there. Very much so still there. I watched him play a couple months ago at the World Championship. Still there. He'll very well be able to feed them the puck. He could have his most assists he's ever had in his career this year.
Yeah, I think so. It's the best talent he's ever played.
He is the best pure goal scorers he's ever had. Taylor Hall is as pure of a goal scorer as they come. He really is. He didn't show it that much last year, but he did once he got Pasternak. And he's just as good of a playmaker. And then the second purest goal scorer in the NHL is going to be on his right in Pasternak. The only guy I think is a pure goal scorer is Austin Matthews. And I don't think that's very refutable anymore. I guess Ovechkin's there, but I think pure goal scorer, Pasta's right there with him, sitting there at number 2.
So when Marchand comes back and goes to the top line and Zacha probably gets bumped down to the third line, what do you think then? Who do you think is going to have the more significant line, 1 or 2?
2, still 2. They'll probably be pretty even. It'll be really like 2. I mean, you're going to have a guy who could put up 100 points in Marchand, a guy who can put up 100 points in Pasta, and then a guy who could put up 80 in Hall, a guy who can put up 80 in Bergeron, and a guy who can put up 50 to 60 in Krejci and DeBrusk. Right? I mean, with the talent around him in a full season, I think they're pretty even lines. It actually, that's where I have so much trouble with the Bruins falling off a cliff this year because those 2 lines healthy just won't let them. There's too much talent there. The third line. Yeah, the third line, and that's where things get weird, obviously, right? Yeah. I don't know what it's going to look like because you are right. I think Zacha, Smith, and Coyle at this point in time are better players than Trent Frederick. I do. But I think the Bruins want Trent Frederick on that line. I do.
I do too. In that line,
I don't know. I don't get it. I don't know what they're going to do. I still don't. They haven't made a move. We've been talking about this for 3 months. They haven't done anything.
And that line last year, the 11, 12, 13 line, was really good at times. Yeah. Great with puck possession. Did they score a ton? Not really. But all of their shifts, it was like a 2-month span in the middle of the season where every shift on the ice, you were like, holy cow. These guys are legit. This is a great third line. Yeah. And typically that was something that the Bruins had in their fourth line up until recently. And last year, I think, was the first year that we saw the Bruins' fourth line
have no identity,
become completely insignificant. And it just seems like the Bruins' fourth line now has become a dumping ground for middle six talent that gets pushed out and beat out for spots. And I think that was kind of one of the major flaws last year. And I think that's going to be the biggest headache and flaw of this team going into this year. The fourth line is a bag of pucks.
The fourth line, but the weird thing is, like, it's a fourth line that, if constructed right, will be one of the most talented fourth lines in the NHL, but that's really not the role.
So if we have a Zacha, Coyle, and Smith third line, who makes up the fourth? Trent Frederick, you say that he's going to get some more time. We'll assume that he'll make the fourth line.
I hate him in a fourth line role. I just don't. It's not. Could he do it? Yeah, he could, but it's not the best use of his talent. I just don't. I mean, what are they going to do? They're going to go Steen, Foligno, and Frederick. I don't know.
We're going to have Nosek there.
I think Wagner will be in Providence to start the year. I think we're pretty set on that. I think he finished the season hard, but
honestly, I would rather have Wagner there than Foligno based on playoff.
But I just don't know that it's going to happen.
Yeah,
I think the Bruins, in all honesty, need to clear out Nosek, Foligno, and Smith probably to get what they want. Not even saying that's the best team, but to get what I think they want, that's what they need to do. But I don't know if they're going to do it. We could see guys get – I think this is going to be the most interesting camp. And we haven't even talked about Lysell. We haven't talked about Lysell, who legit has a chance that if Lysell comes out on fire, Zacha's going to start the season on the third line.
Then I think you have more problems.
Yeah.
Again. And, like, this is the epitome of the Bruins and why they struggle to draft and develop. Your top six is set in. Like, honestly, in my opinion, I don't see, like, Fabian Lysell might get, but 9 to 10 games.
It'd be stupid because when Marchand comes back, what are you going to do with him?
You're going to put him on a third and fourth line?
No, it just doesn't make sense. That's the stuff I just can't, like, wrap my head around.
That is
because DeBrusk earned it. DeBrusk is going to be on that line. DeBrusk earned that. And I think Craig DeBrusk can have a good year. Like, I really do. I don't see DeBrusk falling backwards again.
But if Fabian Lysell comes in and he impresses and he performs, and say he comes in and they're going to say, you had a really good camp. We're going to give you 9 games at the beginning of the year.
Yeah, which they could.
See what you do.
9-game trial.
And if nothing works out, we're going to send you back to the WHL in Vancouver or the AHL, probably the WHL. And we're going to push your entry-level contract off.
He's going to be in Providence.
He's going to Providence. They already said he's not going back to juniors. They
already said that?
Yeah.
I missed
he's
that.
Playing Providence or Boston. He's not. There's no way he goes back to juniors.
So you're burning the ELC no matter what. So I guess it doesn't matter there. But if he impresses, Jake DeBrusk, in my opinion,
comes more expendable. But yeah, I mean he does because you have your wingers are there. I mean you don't really. The Bruins don't have a winger problem.
Because I mean, if you do that, right?
But DeBrusk's contract is so good. It's just like it's tough.
If Lysell can put it together and give you top 6 minutes, is it going to be awful if you have a third line of Zacha, Coyle, DeBrusk?
No, you'd have a legit chance of being a playoff force. DeBrusk could play on a third line as long as he's like getting the right opportunities and he's playing power play and he's out there. You know what I mean? Like I don't think DeBrusk's problem with Cassidy in the situation was less, I think, that he was on the third line because he was playing with Charlie Coyle and Craig Smith. I don't think he felt disrespected by that. I think it was the minutes he got and the role he was in. You can still have third line guys getting 18 minutes, 17 minutes. That Coyle does it all the time. You know what I mean? Like I don't think that's a problem at all. But then it's just the Bruins are the weirdest team where like everyone's like, oh, they're prospect full, they have no depth, but they do. They have too much depth. They have an awkward amount of depth that needs to be moved to get assets to get younger and get draft prospects. That's what needs to happen. It's like this classic situation of we were always like Bruce was always tinkering with the lines because he had too many options that are all at the same goddamn level. It's like, hey, if injuries hit, we have a guy to plug in. Yeah, but we don't need 36 guys who can put up 30 points to plug in.
Yeah. I mean,
I don't know. Kev, give us your lineup.
Kev,
give us your lineup. Connor and I have talked too much. Give us your lineup.
I mean, for what? Third, fourth line?
Yeah.
Yeah, give us your third and fourth line.
I mean, Zaka, Coyle, Smith. Unless they trade Smith, he's the name that I always keeps talking about. But
Calgary wants Smith.
Yeah.
Calgary wants Smith.
So,
I don't think it's going to happen.
They would have to put money out. That's going to be the question. I mean, can you work out a deal where you get, either a Hannafin out of it?
I don't think so.
Mackenzie Weegar out of it?
Are you joking?
No.
They're not giving either of those guys up, dude. They're trying to win a cup.
No, I'm dead serious. They're actually talking about moving a defenseman because they have an overabundance and they want more cap space.
Yeah, but it'll probably be Clinton.
Weegar. Yeah, it won't be Weegar and Hannafin, I don't think.
Hannafin was the first name that was actually mentioned.
Think so, buddy.
I'm spitballing on Weegar just because they haven't signed him to an extension yet, and there hasn't been any talk about an extension.
I don't think they're going to move either their top two defensemen for Craig Smith, but.
Well, I'm not saying it would be a one-for-one deal. They're not fucking Peter Chiarelli on the Edmonton Oilers, But it doesn't make sense that Smith will go to another contender at this point. And I think that's the sticking point for the Bruins on trying to move him. They want something of value. And in order to move him to a contender, they are going to need to take cap space back. Like, we're going to get into this in the next couple of episodes, but I went through and breaking down every team and every division and their cap space, who came in, who left. There's really a very, very, very small amount of quote-unquote contenders who have any cap space. That's becoming the problem. It's just not there. I think your best opportunity, if Craig Smith is going to get moved, is going to be right in the middle of training camp or right after. If he doesn't, I don't see it happening.
No, it would have to be at the trade deadline. If not, I think the Bruins, I know. It's going to be weird. We're going to have to, Bruins training camp's going to go out to it.
And then if he sticks it out till the trade deadline.
We're running real long on Bruins roster. We got to get into the defenseman. I got to move us along. That's my job here.
Another day.
Yeah, another day. We're going to have another podcast before the season starts. Bruins defensive structure. I think we're pretty much in agreement with this. Connor, you can just rattle it off. Go.
So McAvoy, Grzelcyk at the beginning of the year are injured, so I'll leave them out for now. What I would really love to see is a top pairing of Lindholm and Zaboral, a second pair of Carlo and Riley, and a third pair of Forbert and Clifton. Maybe mix a Sean in there somewhere if he has a good camp. But the biggest piece of this defense core is I really want to see Jakub Zaboral in top pair minutes. I want to see what he's got. He played great before the injury last year. If they can work him into the top four and be able to bump Grzelcyk down into more favorable pairings on that third pair, I think that would be ideal for the Bruins going forward.
Yeah, I don't disagree. It's the whole Bruins thing is just wait and see. I'm done talking Bruins. It's making my head spin. I don't want to talk about them anymore.
Frustrated now.
Yeah, there's just nothing's happened, and we're just gonna have to wait and see. It's all wait and see. So we're gonna jump into my favorite segment of the podcast, the one that reminds me of Kevin just laying out on the beaches in Nantucket, the salt of the East. We got some big deal signings in the East in the last week. Some big deal signings with two guys who are both top 10 picks. Guys, one of them who's already been onto his second team will start there. Kirby Dach signed an extension in Montreal. 4 years, $13.45 million, 3.36 AAV. Kevin, how do you feel about this deal?
I feel like for Montreal, the AAV is perfect. It's like Doc still has that potential. He's still only 23 years old, and he really hasn't put it together yet. But I think he's going to. He's still, like we've talked about this before. It's not these guys aren't coming to the league and it's at 18, they're putting up these crazy stats. Some of the kids, they need a little longer. They're coming to the NHL younger.
Especially big body centers.
Right. He's 6'4". Like, he just needs time to develop a little. So I'm about it. So I like it. I think it's good. It gets him there 4 years. So when he's 27, hopefully by then he's in his prime.
That's his prime.
So, right. Yeah. So
and to mention, that's his UFA year. This walks him right to UFA.
Right.
Yeah, which is smart. Smart for him. But he's a Canadian boy. Maybe he'll want to stay.
And for those of you who aren't watching us on YouTube, I pointed to my wrist when talking about Kirby Dach. He had a pretty gnarly wrist injury. And ever since, he just hasn't looked the same. Yeah. And I think that's the biggest gamble of this contract. And that's probably the main reason why the Blackhawks were okay to walk away from him.
He walked into that World Juniors looking like he was going to dominate. He got that wrist injury, and I think he played a little sooner than he should have. And I think that was kind of known. And it definitely hurt him. I mean, hockey is so wrist-based. Like, it's ridiculous. So, like, you know, I mean, I think Kirby Dach's healthy now, and I expect Kirby Dach to do pretty good in Montreal. Next one, a big deal. And it's funny because I have a lot to say on this one. So Tim Stützle signed in Ottawa, 8 years, $66.8 million, AAV of 8.35, modified no movement clause, 10 teams from years 5 to 8. I'll let you start, Connor. How do you feel about this deal? And why do you feel differently about this deal than Tage Thompson?
At least Stützle has shown more over a little more time. Has he been a superstar since he's been into the league? No. But he's had consistent production in the NHL. However, this is still kind of a crazy contract for a young kid. This is kind of solidifying the transfer of power in the NHL. Instead of paying players to what they have performed, you are now buying a new car. You are paying for what you're expecting to get out of this asset. And that is riverboat gambling, 100% on contracts, because you never know when a player is going to have a horrid injury or something and, you know, end the career. But at the same time, a lot of these teams are looking at it as, if we can lock these guys up now in this cap world, when the cap goes up 2 to 3 years from now, we're going to have the next Nathan McKinnon contract, and this is going to be fantastic. But still, I mean, for somebody coming out of their ELC, it's a lot of money. It's not like he's a Connor McDavid or an Austin Matthews, right? You know, it's a little bit of a different story there.
You want to know why this deal got done?
Go ahead, take it away.
Because he's going to center Giroux and DeBrincat this year, and his number was going to go way up.
Oh,
they had to get it done before he played with him. That's it. I really think, and I agree with you. I think in like 3 or 4 years, this deal looks just fine. He's super talented. It's funny because I argued the opposite with Tage Thompson. Their numbers are kind of like there. Stützle is
completely different.
Much better. Stützle is a very, very good player. Tim Stützle,
and he's only 20 years old.
He's a future number one. He's a future top line, top player, all-star. He's elite. His skating's super elite. I think that Tim Stützle is as advertised.
And everybody says that he's super dialed in.
Oh, great kid.
So dedicated this summer. So that means he's going to have 120 points this season. Fucking book it.
He's part of that. He's part of that camp, though. He's part of that German camp, dude. He's part of that German camp. Him and Mo Seider just grinding.
Whoa. That's the only 2 names you mentioned? Leon Draisaitl just gets left?
Not part of that German camp that's grinding together in the offseason. I mean, they're
German hockey.
Those 2 are working out together. Yeah, it is. It is. The Penguins had a deal in place to trade Zucker along with a first to get cap space. They rejected it. Are they done being all in? I don't know where this came from. It's just on the sheet. It's not for me.
This is something that I had heard about, and I did some of my own little research and talking to some people and looking through some other media members' articles and what they were looking at. Earlier this summer, a undisclosed bottom team, offered to take Zucker from the Penguins when they were kind of in the are we going to be able to bring Malkin and Letang back period. They didn't know if they were going to be able to make it work in the cap. This team reached out and they said, hey, you want to get rid of that $5 to $6 million for this season? We'll do it. Give us a first round pick. No questions asked. We'll take them on. And the Penguins turned around and said no. So to me, that was kind of a change in the wins in Pittsburgh. Up until now, they've done everything and anything that they can to A, dump cap space, and B, improve their roster to be all in while they have Malkin and Crosby. And I think this is the change of the winds where we're seeing the Penguins kind of realize that they're not a top flight contender anymore and they need to start thinking about what's next. You know, you've got 3 to 4 more years of the Malkin, Crosby, Letang era. But to be honest with you, everybody talks a lot of smack about the Bruins prospect pool. I think the Penguins are pretty much right there with them.
What are the Penguins' next wave of like Jake Gensel and them? Dude, I would take fucking Pasta over Jake Gensel. Their next upcoming stud. Who's their top young defenseman? It's their youngest pair of defensemen studs. Surely isn't Lindholm and McAvoy. People forget, like I love that. When people just like they're acting like the Bruins are going to be done. The Bruins are still going to have Brad Marchand, David Pastrnak, Taylor Hall, Jake DeBrusk, and 2 stud defensemen. You can retool more than you need to rebuild. Just like you won't suck. And the goaltending. The goaltending. It's
the Bruins will be mediocre.
I don't want to talk about the Bruins anymore. I'm just going to get so frustrated.
But I think the Penguins are going to be just awful.
Bad. Yeah, they'll be bad. And the Bruins will be just mediocre. So they'll like roll in and miss the playoffs or be first round of the playoffs for years and we'll get 12 and 15.
It'll be 2014, 15, 16, 17 Bruins all over again. Yeah, but the Penguins, I don't know. They had a really funky offseason that I just don't understand. Like, they have the new ownership group there.
The Brian Burke effect, Connor. The Brian Burke effect. He's just confusing the shit out of everybody.
And Ron Hextall. I mean,
yeah, I know.
I don't know. It seems like the wheels are about to fall off pretty quickly there. But of course, Sidney Crosby, that name is going to keep them relevant, keep them in the national, TV presence. It is what it is. You just hope that it doesn't completely fall off and Sidney Crosby make a joke of himself at the end of his career.
He won't. There's no way. Crosby's too much of a no. Crosby would be gone. If they weren't competitive, he'll be on the first ticket to playing with his buddy Nate Dogg.
Nate Dogg.
Speaking of Nate Dogg, I don't know if I'll get into it in the West. I'll add it in. One thing that I actually listened to this interview, John Tortorella, torts being torts, baby. He said he has concerns about the locker room and accountability. He said before they even step on the ice, he has some major concerns that have to get fixed. I also heard that Torts and the management group sent an email out to all the players on the team to let them know that this was going to be the worst training camp they've ever had and that it was going to be terrible. Can you imagine Kevin fucking Hayes getting that email? He's probably like, no. Like it's going to – oh, my. Torts is either going to go in and whip them into being a playoff contender again, or it is going to be so bad. There's no middle ground.
It's either going to be
playoffs or
gritty mania.
Bedard.
Yeah.
I can't wait. He's going to say so much dumb shit in the media. It is going to be awesome. Do we have a Flyers writer inside the rink?
Currently, no.
We gotta get one because this guy is going to give sound bites like you can't believe. I can't wait till he calls out Gritty. He's going to like fight Gritty. There might be a chance they'll get an actual skirmish.
Rough and rowdy. Torts versus Gritty.
I hate John Tortorella. Oh my God.
But wait. It works. Like his process works.
For a year or
for 2 to 3 years.
Yeah.
And then it kind of expires. But
then guys are like, fuck this dude.
If you really look at the Flyers roster, it's decent. Like they
shouldn't be bad.
Underperformed last year by all measure of the talent. So I guess this is really going to be the epitome of the players. This is going to be a lot about the players. Do they come in and get ground down by a coach and just be like, screw it, whatever. I'm just going to go through the motions, and they're going to have a really awful year, and they're just going to get ripped by their coach and the media constantly, or they're going to come out, they're going to take their beatings by Torts in preseason. They're going to learn from him and get, some of that culture out of him. And they're going to perform and be a playoff contender.
The best roster Torts has had in a long time.
Well, it helps that he hasn't really been around recently.
Yeah, that's true. If Torts, the problem is with Torts is like Torts talent doesn't really like to play for Torts. So we'll see how the roster looks in a year of Torts.
But Cam Atkinson was so excited for Torts. That's the confusing part.
I know it's because I think he's your classic just old boys club kind of asshole where he literally picks favorites. like there has to be a reason that some guys are like, I love Torts, and then other guys are like, he's the worst thing that ever happened, and they're both like NHL veteran, well-respected players. It's like
same with the Mike Babcock treatment.
Babcock was a little worse, I think. Babcock was a little on the abusive side.
But you have players even from the Detroit days who think that he walks on water,
Not Dan Cleary. Dan Cleary is not. Or Franzen, right? Is it Franzen who hates him?
I think both, to be honest.
Yeah, I think there might be more than just two. Chris Kreider being blamed for the Carey Price injury. Kevin, what is that about? You guys put things in the sheet honestly, that I didn't look at the sheet till now, and I have no idea what any of these things are. So I'm glad that you two are both here.
Yeah, no. So Bob Hartley, who last coached in the NHL back in 2015, 2016, went on
the coach, Kev.
I couldn't tell you.
The Flames, I thought.
Flames.
So he went on the BPM Sports podcast in Montreal. And he discussed Carey Price and that collision back in 2014 between Kreider and Price. And he was blaming Kreider for ending Price's career early and all these injuries to his knees and everything that he continued to go through, which was a very interesting take because I remember that was a big thing back then. Price missed out the playoffs because of the injury, and Kreider's kind of known for hitting goalies. So
yeah, Kreider's also known for going 37 feet off sides because he skates too fast and can't stop himself. It has nothing to do with Chris Kreider being a dirty player. And Bob Hartley's a clown and just wants his name in the media. End rant.
Fair. Very fair.
That's all we're going. Okay, we're good with that.
Yeah.
We're all tied. Welcome to my favorite. Just kidding. It's not my favorite segment because we don't have an intro video yet. We're working on it. We're working hard on it. The Wild Wild West segment of the Cue the Duck Boats podcast. Chuck wanted to be the captain in Calgary. I saw this week. There are people who came out. Do you know who came out and said it, Connor? I can't remember off the top of my head. It was
one of his teammates.
It was a player, but it was an absolute plug who I actually had to search his name.
Yeah, that's why I don't remember.
It was an AHL player.
So one of the reasons Tkachuk wanted out of Calgary is because he wanted to be the captain. They wouldn't let him be the captain. Who is the captain of the Calgary Flames right now?
Nobody.
What? I think that Tkachuk probably had a legit shot at that. I think this might be nothing burger and news, and I don't know that it's actually true. I bet you Chuck did want to be a captain, but he also
they weren't willing to guarantee that he would be captain if he signed the contract. That was the sticking point.
I just wonder, I wonder if that's true. I really do.
Look at Brady Tkachuk. Everybody said that, he wanted to be the next captain, and that was one of the things that he wanted when he was inking his contract.
Listen, if you're smart, you let a Tkachuk be the captain of your team. They bring the culture. I would
and no.
I mean, you wouldn't let either of those guys be the captain of your team. Bruins are in a little different situation, right? Don't think Bruins, but
so now
those two teams, those captainless teams that need culture, I think Tkachuk giving Brady the C made sense.
Do you think, not now, but down the road, even at their next contracts or later in their career, that the NHL will kind of be like, you know what? Bleep you, Tkachuk family.
No.
With the way they go through contract negotiations and how they kind of play the media, that's going to get old eventually.
No. The power's moving to the players. Just get used to it. It's going to be everyone doing it. The LeBron James effect is coming. It's coming in every sport. It really is. Like, there's nothing you can do about it. LeBron showed every single one of these professional athletes the playbook. Get yourself in the media, make big everything on everything you do, and you'll make more money. And look at it happening. It's happening. There's no, like, it's happening.
But the NHL is always behind the 8 ball.
They're catching up. The ESPN deal is them catching up. Freaking Skip Bayless and Stephen A. Smith talking about the NHL on their stupid shows is the NHL catching up. Fair. It is. You know what I mean? Like, it's going to happen. Like, there's more and more people now starting to watch hockey who aren't from the regular demographic that hockey created, right? It's just a good thing. It's a very good thing. I don't mean that in a negative.
This is where, like, I'm struggling as somebody who is having a hard time letting go of what hockey was. Like, the hockey that I loved was these dudes getting on the ice and you had a fourth line that had 1 or 2 badasses on it.
It would kill each other for their teammate. That's gone. It's done.
Yeah, it's dead and gone. You know, it's moving over to a more skilled league, which I have no problem with that, right?
Yeah.
But I still have those traditionalist NHL heartstrings pulling at me. And if I was a GM or an owner and Matthew Tkachuk was like, I want to be told that I will be the captain of the Flames when I sign this contract. If I were in Brad Treliving's shoes at that point, I'd be like, screw you. Bye.
Pew! I mean, you know, that's not new, right? Like, Zdeno Chara did that in Boston.
Mm-hmm.
And he wasn't as big of a name as Tkachuk was at that time. That's really not that new. There are guys who want to come in and they want to create their own culture. So I mean, it's tough. Like, I could never imagine being in that position, right? Being like, I want to be like, I don't get it.
But I mean, maybe it just is to the point where, like you said, this is now coming to the NHL. And like, this has happened for years and years and years, and we just never heard about it.
Yeah.
So I could bitch and moan that Chara is demanding things.
You know what I mean? Like, I really think like that. I think like this stuff's been happening behind closed doors. It's becoming a players' league. It's easier to portray things in the media now, and fans. The new age hockey fans are fans of the WWE. They're fans of the WWE that is the NBA. They're fans of all this stuff. Like, so they don't bat an eye at this type of stuff anymore. You know what I mean?
Fair.
Hockey culture is just changing. Like, it's just changing.
Rapidly.
Like, I see it. I mean, like, right, I coach a hockey team. Like, I see how hockey culture is changing. And I don't necessarily think it's a bad thing. You know what I mean? Like, the game has to grow in my dog just absolutely rammed into the door. He walks in. I don't know. I don't want to get into a deep dive in hockey culture, but I grew up loving the culture of hockey and loving all of it, right? But at a certain point, you learn, like, hey, maybe there are some things that could be cleaned up, right?
Oh,
you know,
there's a lot of things that need some work in the hockey culture.
Exactly. So I think that the more public everything is in the NHL, the better.
Fair.
JT Miller, very surprised at this extension. 7 years, $56 million, $8 million AAV, no movement clause from year 1 to 4, modified no movement from years 5 to 7, 15 teams. I'm going to put everything out there as one topic. Does this contract make it so Bo Horvat, and Connor Garland could be on the move because of the Miller extension? I didn't write this question, so let me answer it first. You want me to answer it first?
Go ahead.
I think Garland very much could be on the move. I think Bo Horvat won't be, due to the fact they've told teams he's untouchable multiple times. I only know that because I listened to the 32 Thoughts podcast. I didn't come up with that on my own.
And it's their captain.
Yeah. Like, I didn't like, so I know because Elliot said it, that they've told teams you cannot have Bo Horvat.
Yet.
Yeah.
They also told people that we want to get rid of JT Miller, and here we go with the contract.
I don't understand Vancouver. Vancouver's a team like Boston.
Yep.
But they're a little younger. But not
have
much.
Way more young talent.
Yeah.
So for me, and also another name to throw in here is actually Oliver Ekman-Larsson, whose name has been thrown around as somebody they'd be willing to take offers on. So
maybe we're going to get more Ekman-Larsson to the Bruins rumors. I think those are dead with Lindholm.
I don't.
Okay.
We can get into that after if you want to. But
Nah.
I
Save
think
it for next episode.
JT Miller coming in at $8 million kind of was destined to happen after the Kadri and the Huberdeau contracts. Just like salary wise. What I think is interesting is his trade protection through the trade. So he has made it very, very difficult for them to move him at the beginning of this contract. And then at the end of the contract, he doesn't have trade protection. He just can't be sent to the minors. So they are setting themselves up to potentially ditch this contract.
Yeah, he won't be there, man. He won't. JT Miller's not going to be there for the long run.
And there's also been some scuttlebutt water cooler talk here that this may actually make him more tradable in the now, since he has a contract signed and in place.
Yeah, no, a lot of people don't think that this means he's staying there.
Yeah, I think that...
$8 million is a decent number for him. He's worth it.
Yeah, he's worth it, but I think this gives a team who was interested in him, New York Islanders, a definitive number to fit into their cap system to let them know what they need to move out to fit it in. And I think that's interesting because this is a good player and this would be a massive contract.
Very interesting.
But I am with you on... I don't understand what Vancouver's trying to do, to be honest.
No.
They have the new management structure, the new general manager and staff. I was fully expecting them to walk away from JT Miller to kind of trade him in for a newer model, if you will, to get a little bit younger to match the actual core of this team, with the Horvat, the Besser, the Pedersen, the Quinn Hughes, like the Thatcher Demko, like that is your core. And I feel like when that core is competing for a Stanley Cup, JT Miller is not going to be performing to this contract. He's just not.
Yeah.
That's the biggest confusion for me. Like they're still probably 2, 3, 4 years away.
No, yeah, I agree. I don't really, honestly, Vancouver's one of those teams. I look at it, I'm like, yeah, there's a lot of talent there, but it's just not working. So you might want to try to figure that out.
That's how it's been since 2011, right?
Yeah, since Brad Marchand dropped his balls on their whole organization, city, town. Marchand propelled
their city down.
Yeah, Marchand propelled to the top of the NHL. The Vancouver Canucks went down. I think Brad Marchand single-handedly ruined their franchise.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
As much as the Bruins can't draft and develop their own talent, I feel like
has Vancouver more longevity.
Drafts and develops, but they can't push their team across the finish line. And
just like that, it is time for Kevin's favorite segment of the podcast, the Lucky Duckies. Kev, what do you have for us today? Make us all rich. Make us rich, Kevin.
I actually didn't prepare for this one.
Okay. I have a football bet for us.
I can think.
I'll give us a little football bet. We're going to be transparent. This is a hockey podcast. In the Lucky Duckies, we're going to talk football and hockey gambling.
Any way to make money.
Any way to make money. I mean, we could tell you about a good deal off Craigslist. Maybe there's a nice piano that you could buy and sell for $200 more. Kevin's tapped in like that. He always has dollar signs on his mind. Okay, so I placed a little parlay cafe for today. It is a parlay of the Ravens money line, the Colts money line, and the Bengals money line. That is at odds of plus 124. This is kind of like you're betting on 3 teams who are expected to win, 3 favorites. This is a week 1 of the NFL. Try to build your bank. Try to just start to slowly build your bank up type bet. So, you can put small money on it. I think Baltimore's locked for the win. I think the Colts are absolutely locked for the win. And I think Cincy has a great chance at winning. Pittsburgh's not bad. So there's a chance there. But I do like all three of those teams to get the win. Really nothing more about futures or anything like that. I think we've given enough of those. Kev, you have anything you like?
Yeah, so after looking through this little lineup, I'm going to go with 49ers and parlay that with the Broncos and parlay it with the Colts. Can't tell you what the odds are.
I can. So Broncos, Niners.
I think Russell
Colts.
Wilson's return to Seattle.
So Broncos, Niners, Colts is going to put you at plus 131. I think you're much, much, much safer taking my bet, but
no,
maybe not though. I think
Risk
San
and
Fran beats
reward.
Chicago.
Risk and reward.
I agree with you. I think if we're doing my method of quarterbacks, then I think you're just all right. Anything else, guys? I think that kind of wraps up the podcast for us here. Make sure you guys are going over to InsideTheRink.com for all your hockey news. Check out our merchandise. Check out all the other podcast merchandise. And if you're a Bruins fan, you should be checking out the Bruins Benders podcast. I know we have a lot of people come to us who are Bruins fans. Definitely be giving them a check out. If you're a fan of a team like the Red Wings, we have the Perfection Line podcast, right? Perfection? That's not right. Production Line. Yeah. I know I said that wrong.
Perfection Line is in Boston.
Yeah, I know. I'm fully aware. We got so my brain just shuts off. Rangers podcast. We have the Rangers podcast over there with Berkey.
The Pangers
pod. We got chicken tendies. Chicken tendies.
Women's hockey related.
Everything women's hockey. We got the Vegas podcast. They're out there killing it. Vegas Fever podcast.
They do everything Vegas, not just
they
hockey.
They do everything. They sometimes are talking like Vegas basketball. They get wild over there. What else do we have? We have Clifton. We have Clifton and the gang. We have the Cue the Dagger podcast.
For all you sad Blackhawks fans.
Yeah, and that's the network.
Leafs Late Night.
Leafs Late Night.
They are not on the website yet, but that is
they're coming. They're coming, yeah. So we got Cue the Dagger, Cue the Duck Boats, Checkin' Tendies, the Vegas Fever podcast, Production Line, Bruins Benders, and the New York Rangers, a New York Rangers podcast.